Hi, welcome back to the Honoriest Latina Ever, where I want to smack the camera guy. You guys ask me why I don't look at the camera. It's so that I don't punch his fucking lights out. Boyfriend and girlfriend should never work together in a studio because that can cause issues. Okay, so today's topic is going to be on a little bit of what's going on in current events. I was walking back from the gym through the neighborhood, and I noticed that it was a beautiful day. Because, you know, Mr. Trump, he has me thinking about beauty all the time, you know. So I'm saying to Bill, what a beautiful day in the neighborhood, you know. And then I started to think about where that expression came from, you know. Back when we were little kids, you guys all remember Mr. Rogers, that fucking square with the little sweater with the puppets, okay. And we started kind of reenacting a new version of Mr. Rogers. But first I said to Will, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Well, thinking about our neighbors, I was thinking about Mexico and how California is going to be a sanctuary state. And I was thinking about all those groping actresses, you know, wearing their little black dresses, their hoochie coochie dresses, and whining about being groped after making $1 million. And so I was thinking about all the little sex slaves that were in Mexico coming over here, and how nobody said anything about their lives, and how nobody says anything about their human rights, and how, like, I was reading an article on Twitter, I kid you not, Macaulay McCaulkin was talking about how this producer told him he had made some shoes out of the skin of some little kid, you know. And so we protest leather, and we protest, you know, the awful treatment of animals, but like this guy is a Hollywood producer wearing skin out of shoe skin out of kids, you know, and God knows what else he does with those little kids. But you know, you have Lady Gaga, I call her Lady Caca, doing these sex slave videos and stuff like that, and there's some really nasty shit out there that they really do, and some of these royals are into this culture of, like, I don't even know what you call it, Bill. What do you call it? Culture of freakiness, okay? Freakiness. So anyway, so we're talking about the sanctuary state of California, and I think that Mr. Trump needs to cut all their fucking funding off, you know, off with it, and not fund any of that crap, because if you're not going to comply with the federal regulations, you don't need to have any more federal money. So anyway, we just cut you guys out. You can just become part of Mexico, and fuck you. Anyway, and you Hollywood actors and actresses, I think that if you don't like being groped, maybe you might want to, like, not support rappers, because, you know, rappers support prostitution, and prostitution supports the sex slave human trafficking of little kids. And so this is Sex Slave Human Trafficking Month, and we're talking about men that want to have sex with teenagers. Now, we think it's bad enough being groped as a Hollywood starlet. Oh, you poor victim, but at least you're old enough to know better. Can you imagine being a little girl from Mexico, ranging from maybe 4 to 6, and you come to the United States for a better life? Your parents sell you because they have no money, and they have way too many kids, and you're in the hands of some sociopath who doesn't want to work for a living. And so what he does is he houses a bunch of little kids, and he uses them to put up porn on the internet. And then in essence, when he gets them groomed enough for that and all that other stuff, he makes profit of hiring them out as little sex slaves, or they just become slaves in general. But anyway, some of the work conditions for these people are deplorable. And we've had senators at the very top turn a blind eye to this, and it's not being reported in the news. So I think that Mr. Rogers needs to be updated. Boys and girls, we don't take drugs from little kids that come from gangs that are in the schools, illegally so, because, you know, eventually you might get hooked on them. And that would be a very, very, very bad thing. But we have to be a good neighbor, and we have to let everybody in here illegally, because you know what? The liberals need things to be fair, and they need to have people to vote for them for their failed policies and for their wrong politics. But also, you want to talk about the original sex slaves. It's interesting how we get down on all the Muslims for marrying little girls and stuff like that, but it wasn't too long ago that the Mormons would take on more than one wife, and they would actually have young ones, like in their underage ones as well. And Mitt's going for a run in his hometown state, but one of the worst sex crimes came with a friend of mine who married a Mormon guy. She ended up marrying an Oregon lawyer but all her girls were raped at the ages of 2 and 3 and 4 years old by her husband. So anyway, he was a Mormon. I didn't get a really rosy sight from that religion, from what she told me about it. But it was very sad. Not to get down on Mormons, Mitt, but before you open your mouth about Mr. Trump, I would just really be mindful about like some of the stuff that thou shall not do. I mean, I never want to run for office because, you know, everybody's going to put your junk right out there. And really, you may as well put your junk out there before they do. I think it's just best to be honest, really. Yeah, I did that. Yep, I did that. Yeah, I trespassed on Disneyland and forgot to return the library book. Oh yeah, I say fuck a lot. I do. You know, it's my favorite word, you know, and nothing's going to stop that. No amount of Jesus, no amount of prayer, nothing is going to change it. Maybe if you give me $1 billion, like if you give me $1 billion and say, Dee, you can never say the word fuck again, I might for $1 billion do that. But with that said, you know, we look at the news and we see how they are trying to assess the president's insanity or his mindset or whatever. And meanwhile, we had 8 years of like Barack Obama, who couldn't even produce a motherfucking birth certificate. You know, hello, and talk about insane. I mean, the guy was just, you know, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I saw him interviewed by Prince Harry. Anyway, that was unbelievable. He did nothing in those 8 years, absolutely nothing. And Mr. Trump, in the first 6 months, has done more than that pendejo did in 8 years. So you want to talk about crazy? Talk about crazy. We had open borders. We had our debt go over, you know, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. We're gonna like completely turn this around, at least, because you know what, the stock market and the jobs being created by all this and the things that are happening are very real things that needed to happen 10 years ago. And I think that to go the way we were going would just end up in a doomsday. So all these liberals that walk around with their vagina hats and complain and bitch about groping and whatever, you know, get over it, cupcake. You know, somebody gropes me, they're gonna get a fist in their face, okay? You know, and I'm just gonna say I had to punch him in the eye because he groped me, and you know, and so I think that would take care of it. You give them a nice good shot in the arm or in the chest or whatever, you know, they're not gonna grope you anymore. And then if they complain about it, just go, yeah, no, I thought he'd be into bestiality since he was openly groping, so I thought I would rough him up because I think that's kind of sexy. Anyway, you guys, I think that it takes a very strong woman. There are no victims, so get out there and kick ass and have a great day. God bless.